WVOX, the Greenburgh Report, with Greenburgh Town Supervisor Paul Feiner. You can join in the conversation at 914-636-0110. Now on 1460 WVOX, here's Greenburgh Town Supervisor Paul Feiner.
Good morning. My name's Paul Feiner. I'm the Greenburgh Town Supervisor, and I'd like to thank WVOX for this weekly opportunity. I'm joined today with co-hosts Zach Bergenfeld, John Rood, and Josh Ringel. They're student interns, and maybe you could tell us just a little bit about yourself before we start.
Hello, I'm John Rood, and I'm going to be attending University of SUNY Albany, and I'll be majoring in business and marketing.
Hi, I'm Zach Bergenfeld. Next year I'm going to be attending the University of Southern California, where I'm going to be studying business and U.S. history.
And I'm Josh Ringel, and I currently go to Albany, and I'm going to be a junior next year, and I study public policy.
Great. And now they're professional radio hosts since they were on last week. So you're a little less nervous?
Definitely.
Yes, most
definitely. And you had the program last year?
Yeah, well, I've done it a couple times before, and I did it by myself once, and that was interesting.
Great. We have as our guests today two editors of Patch, Michael Witten and Lizzie Hedrick. Lizzie is the editor of the River Towns Patch, and Michael is the editor of the New Rochelle Patch. What is Patch?
Patch is a community news forum. What Patch is kind of changed over the couple of years that it's existed. It started out as mainly news, and now it's become really much more of a community resource and hub of information within the community. We've recently started having people blog directly onto our site, which gets in local voices, so not only our voices and the voices of the freelancers that we have writing for us. And what we're trying to do is convey as much information about what's happening within our community as we can, so that anything that people want to know about what's happening with their schools, their government, sports, arts events, anything like that, even quirky, interesting stories, of course, crime and police blotters, we want to put it out there for them.
And it's a forum for people to just give their own opinions, and they can make comments on any of the stories, any of the blogs, and it just adds another voice to the community.
I frequently post some of the Patch stories on my Facebook page, and I find them very, very interesting. Where do you get all the ideas?
There are so many different places. I've realized that recently the majority of what I get is from what people either tell me about when I see them on the street, when I see them at different places that I go to cover, from emails. In the beginning, it was a lot of searching different websites and finding out about what was happening and doing that on my own. And once you've been there for a long time and people know that you do what we do, they start to come out to you and tell you about things and want you to cover different things.
Online publications, you don't have the problems that newspapers have with space and all that. Do you how many stories are you able to post a day?
We put up as much as we can. Generally, my site, because it's a 75,000 population in New Rochelle, there's a lot of news and there's a lot of stuff to cover. I can easily put up 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 stories a day. It's not hard to fill the void.
Could you tell us a little bit about yourselves and your backgrounds?
I graduated from college 2 years ago, and I'd had an internship with a newspaper in Pasadena, California, writing for the Pasadena Weekly, and started writing there. They had a schools column, and I just really enjoyed going into the schools. And while everyone else, it was a joke that they called it the bifurcated school zone column, because someone else would write about budget cuts, and I would go in and find something interesting that was happening. And it was just became a passion of mine. So I started freelancing for the Tarrytown Patch when it launched about 1.5 years ago, and was doing the same thing for them there, going into the schools, talking to students and teachers, and it's just so much fun, the different stories that you can learn, people you get to talk to, things that you just wouldn't know about otherwise, and that sort of is how I became involved with the Rivertowns patch, and it's been the same sort of experience there. I grew up in Ardsley. I've lived there for 25 years, not counting college. And, when people say that the Rivertowns are not interesting and that there isn't enough happening, it's just, from doing what I do, I realize it's just so untrue.
My background, I'm a former musician. I've always dabbled in writing. I was an editor for King Features Syndicate. They're the ones who syndicate Popeye. I was working the editorial side, editing columns like Chris Matthews when he was writing a syndicated column, and Evans and Novak. Then I worked for a small syndicate and got interested in graphic design, did that for a while, and my last job was, before I came to Patch, was 8 years with the Poughkeepsie Journal as a municipal reporter.
In terms of freelance opportunities, is that very, very difficult and competitive? If somebody wants to write, for you and, get paid as a freelancer, how do they go about that?
They really just have to reach out to us and have something. What we ask is that people send us their resume and some writing samples. One of the most helpful, to me at least, is someone who really is familiar with the community and has some ideas for things happening in the community, and especially
they can bring us stories.
Right, they can help bring us stories, because we do so much work finding what we can on our own. When a freelancer can come to us and say, I have a great idea and I can tell you, that I can have this story for you, and here are the people that I'll talk to for it. That to me is the ideal in a freelancer.
So like if somebody would say, there's a lot of bands playing at restaurants every Friday night. I want to do a feature on the bands and the personalities. That might be a freelance opportunity. Or if somebody says, I'll go to a school board meeting and cover that.
Right, and especially if someone says, I'll go to the school board meeting, I know some of the background about this particular school board. I understand the issues. I won't have a problem making sure that I put everything in context and have a very solid grasp of what's happening, and that's the ideal in a freelancer.
I've been working a lot with Iona College journalism students and giving them some opportunities to do some writing. So we're always looking for new talent, and if anyone's interested, they can certainly, as Lizzie said, send us their resumes and clips, and we'll take a look at them.
So that's really a great opportunity for students who are interested in, in journalism, or even for retirees who want to do a little bit and feel that they're still working, but they don't have to work as hard as somebody who has a full-time job.
Exactly,
Right.
But also another huge must for us is that the person can take some photos or video footage, because when you are working online, it's so important to have the media to go with an article. And it is really hard for people, especially who have worked in the industry in the past, who either only had to do the photography or the writing.
Right.
To combine it, and we know that it's a tall order, but it really is sort of the way it is now, that you have to be able to deliver both.
Just going back to like the resume and sample stories thing, where should you email that to, just so that the listeners know if anybody wants to participate?
The contact information's on our websites.
Do you think that the future of journalism is going to be on the web and the internet rather than print media, since you've had experience in both?
I think there will always be print. You're always going to have USA Today. You're always going to have New York Times, the Washington Post, the big papers. Whether or not the smaller papers survive is a big question. I could see in the Gannett Corporation, where I came from, I could see easily where they've started scaling back, that they don't run classifieds every day of the week. I could see them not printing a newspaper on maybe Monday or Tuesday, just to save the printing costs.
Or cutting out Saturday first,
Yeah.
and then Sunday, and then maybe gradually it will be a weekly or whatever.
Right.
Could you tell us about some of your interesting stories? Since you've been editing the patch, what stands out?
Gosh, there's so many. Recently, I was working on a story at the Dobbs Ferry schools, and someone said to me, you have to go to this concert